Welcome to the Rex Chapman Show with super sexy Josh Hopkins, my guy.
Yeah.
And you know what we have today, Josh? We have the 2021 NCAA National Championship winning coach,
Champ is here.
Scott Homer Drew. Scott, welcome.
Hey, it's great being on your show. Been a big fan of yours for a long time, and love watching you play back in the day.
Thanks, buddy. Man, I'm so happy for you. Does it sound weird, national championship winning coach? I remember the first time I introduced my girlfriend as my wife, I kind of went, "Oh, my wife? That sounds weird." But are you used to this yet?
I'm not used to it, but I tell you what, I'm really appreciating trying to get used to it, and I love hearing it. And when people say, "Does that sound weird to you? Are you used to it yet?" And you're like, each time you hear it, like, man, it's like a I don't know what everyone likes for dessert. For me, like anything chocolate, like whenever you have something chocolate, it just tastes great. Well, hearing that, and whenever you have a bad day or bad mood since that championship, you just smile and think back to the season, like we champs.
What an unbelievable year. I mean, ups and downs, highs and lows. I want to get into all of that and a lot of this year, but I want to go way back. Growing up, I've known of your family. My dad was a basketball coach in Owensboro, Kentucky, coached Kentucky Wesleyan College, D2 program. He always, watching basketball with him, he made it a point if I knew who could coach and who couldn't. And from the moment he started watching your dad's teams, he was like, "This Homer Drew, Rex, you got to see him. He can really coach." And no matter where I go to this day, to many people, I'm still Wayne's son. Are you still Homer's kid wherever you go?
I'm usually Bryce's brother, though. and the funny thing is, my dad's dad was named Homer, and my brother and I, all we wanted to do was make sure we weren't named Homer. So anyway, it's better to be Bryce's brother than Homer's son. All right.
So great, man. I was going back over some of your history. You stopped playing in high school.
Mm-hmm.
What went into that decision? And did you feel pressure to play growing up as a son of Homer Drew?
Yeah, you know what was great is my dad always involved us in the gym and always got us into a variety of sports. It was quarterback in football. It was shortstop pitcher in baseball. It was not so fun piano lessons and karate lessons, but tennis. I mean, he wanted us doing everything, and then he wanted us to gravitate to what we really enjoyed. And obviously basketball, I love playing. And I don't know if I was 5'1.5", I think, my sophomore year. So that obviously affected things. And at that point, I had to have my uniform specially sewed on to go out. And so I love basketball. But at that point, I was like, if I'm going to play anything professionally, it's probably not basketball. So at that point, tennis kind of took over. And the one thing I really always enjoyed was the coaching aspect of basketball. And then, so at that point, I started working out my brothers and actually coached my brother's team and sister's team when I was in college. And obviously worked on went to my dad's camps all the time and worked them. And probably because my dad, and being a coach's son, if you want to spend any time with your dad, it was at the gym because that's where he was always at. So the good thing is we had a free gym to play at. The bad thing is everything we did was basketball. And the great thing is my dad did allow me to tag along with the team. And I was the guy that probably annoyed some of the players when I was younger, but I really learned a lot. And I love going recruiting with him, keeping stats on kids that we'd watch recruiting wise. And then when he would get pulled over for speeding, I thought it was so cool seeing the sirens go off when you're 5 or 6 years old. That's your first memory. He didn't probably enjoy it so much, but anyway, because he did drive fast back in the day. But but I really just loved being around him, and I thought it was one of the best compliments I could ever give my dad was going into the profession that he chose. And again, us coaches' sons all know what it's like, kind of like preachers' kids. It's just a different lifestyle.
Absolutely. I was growing up in the Midwest. it was always, tournament time. It's really, you just live for tournament time in the South and Midwest. And I think back about what were your feelings years ago? Bryce makes one of the biggest shots in NCAA basketball history. What were your feelings in that moment? Can you even describe that?
Yeah. Well, coaching with my dad was an unbelievable joy and a great honor, especially when you look back, when we get older and we're with our kids, and like when you spend those times and moments with your family, those always resonate and always are special to you. But in your profession, if you can celebrate the best moments in your profession with your family at the same time, I don't know if it gets any better than that. And for my brothers, this moment really built up for us because his first year we win a conference, but there's no automatic bid. The second year we win and and you go to the NCAA tournament, and you just get beat down by Arizona and Tempe. I mean, I didn't want to leave the locker room and go out second half because I think at that time Arizona's 8th and 9th man was, I think, Jason Terry, and they had no walk-ons. I'm like, what? Put the walk. They had no walk-ons, all right? So I think AJ Bramlett or someone was the 9th man. I mean, so we're just getting torched that game. But then the next year you go to the tournament, and we're playing Boston College, and they'd won, I think, the Big East championship, and my brother's going off first half. They're playing a boxing one on them, and we end up losing in the last few minutes of the game. And it's so your last chance is his senior year, and you're playing Ole Miss, SEC champ, I believe, and a tournament champ. And we end up. It was a great game, back and forth. But then at the very end, you're like, oh no, here we go. Ansu Cisse at the free throw line. If he makes a free throw, game's basically over. He misses both free throws, 2.5. Long pass. So you go from coaching career with your brother being done, being so close to winning a tournament game in the first time in school's history, and you lost that opportunity to all of a sudden he hits that three, he dives on the floor. Now, coaches are always smarter than players, right? The players jump on top of him. The coaches wait and jump on top of the players, so we're not in the bottom of the huddle, but the top of the huddle. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, that was like the best moment. Because you go from season's over, it's a wrap. You never accomplished your goal of winning a game in the tournament to all of a sudden pandemonium. You end up getting to the Sweet 16. And now whenever they play best moments in NCAA history, you get to relive that. So that's unbelievable. And then the only bad side of that is, in tournaments, if you have good memories, you probably have bad memories. So one of the worst ones was when RJ Hunter's son hits that deep three. They beat us. But, it's a coach's son's family, so I guess it's a little more easier to take. And Coach Hunter's a great guy. And actually, he asked my dad for advice about should my son play for me, and my dad was so wise to tell him yes, and then they turn around and beat us. So I got my dad to thank for that one.
Thanks, Dad. Exactly. What do you got, Josh? You got something for Homer Scott Homer Drew?
I am. Thanks for being here, Coach. This is really cool. I mean, I know you got a lot of press stuff right now being the champ, so it's great for you to take the time here. And excuse me for a bit of a long-winded question, but it is a question.
I like your energy, by the way.
All right. I like yours, Coach. Here you after coming from a basketball family. Mm-hmm. You're idolizing your dad, who's an all-time coach, right? And then you didn't play, you, like you said, quit in high school and didn't play college ball, but you were a student manager for 2 years, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
correct.
Where were you?
So I was at Butler, and the great thing is Barry Collier transformed that program, and he's kind of the architect of Butler. But his two assistants, Thad Mata and Jay John, I was able to really learn under. And again, God's plan is always the best, and having a chance to study under them. And to this day, I owe them a lot to my success because I learned a lot from them. And then when I got hired from my dad, I was able to bring that back to my dad. And that was one thing my dad, he knew two things, either law school or coaching, because my whole family were either lawyers or coaches. The ones that aren't too smart were coaches, and the intelligent ones are lawyers. So that's how it worked. And so he said, the best thing is you want to coach, we go to Butler, learn something, and then that way, if you want to come back and I was a restricted earnings coach, but a GA basically for my first year, and I was able to actually have some other experience to help my dad. So sorry to cut your question off, but that I was really blessed to learn under those three outstanding coaches.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's fantastic, and it adds to the story. It's like then you come up having not played, and your little brother is a stud athlete, and you're a little bit overshadowed by he and your father. He hits the shot for that team. It's an all-timer moment, I'm sure, for your family, but just for the tournament, they show it every year. And then you pound the pavement as an assistant for your dad for 8 years recruiting.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's hard work. Then you have all the pressure of succeeding your dad, who's, an icon at the school. Then your team doesn't make the tournament that year, and you get a lot of scrutiny for leaving immediately. And then you go to Baylor, which is absolutely in shambles, probably never a D1 school ever more in shambles. I mean, you were on probation. A player on the team murdered another player on the team. And you come in there, you said 36 wins in the first 5 seasons. After that, you drag them to relevance and then to prominence. And then you get to the Elite 8 2 years, and you lose to the eventual champions both years, Duke and Kentucky, 10 and 12. Then you're bounced in the first round, both 15 and 16. And then you've heard your detractors at that point are saying like, well, he's a great guy, but he's a great recruiter, but kind of rolls the ball out, no X's and O's, lets him play because they get bounced. And then in 2020, you have at least the first or second best team, probably the best team, and COVID. And that's all canceled. And then this season, you have the best team, it's proven, and you know it. And then you're off for 3 weeks, just completely discombobulated, ruins your flow, and you had it going on, and then you come back and the team's shaky. They're not playing the same defense. Balls aren't going in. And then the whole season, you're great, but your team's kind of overshadowed by the happy-go-lucky Gonzaga story, the darling of the media. Then you win every game in a single elimination tournament to make it to the championship game against that darling team who you beat to ruin their season, and now you're a national champion. After all that, how does it feel?
I'm tired. That was a long journey.
That's amazing. That's a life dedicated to basketball, and you've reached the pinnacle. That's got to be so fulfilling.
Yeah, well,
you earned it.
I can tell you, Josh, it's great question as far as the feeling goes. And the one thing I can share is whenever you've been close, and especially with the Final Four, like you said, the 2 Elite Eights, that really made us appreciate getting to the Final Four that much more, because when you're close and you knock and don't get in, and then all of a sudden it takes some time to get back there, you're like, man, you got to take advantage of those opportunities because they don't come around all the time. I mean, when it was 2010, 2012, you're just assuming, in another year or 2 years, we're going to have another chance. And that doesn't always happen. The one thing that we have done is we've been really consistent. And since 2008, only us in Kansas in the Power Five have won 18 or more games a year. So really, now that's 13 years where you've been the most consistent. And then in the last 5 years, only 4 schools, us, Kentucky, Kansas, and Duke, I don't even think Kentucky's in there. I think it's we're one of 4, Kansas, Gonzaga, Duke, and Baylor. That's the 4 that have been at least number 1 3 out of 5 seasons. So we've been, in the last 2 years, we won more Power 5 games than anybody in the country. So we've been the winningest Power 5 program. So we've been consistent, but you and I know in sports, if you don't win it all, you don't get to a Final Four, it's close but no cigar. And the great thing is this team, the first championship in Baylor school's history, only the second in the state, The last one, 1966, Texas Western, Glory Road, the movie. I mean, there's been so many good college teams in the state of Texas and never a championship. So this group will be special when we come back in 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. They're the first to ever do it at Baylor. And the great thing is there's such good people. So blessed as a coach because the head coach is only as good as his staff, only as good as his players. And what I've really loved about my dad, Hall of Fame coach, extremely positive, but he had a great perspective, and he understood that leaders got to be humble servants because it's not us, it's about them. And you got to have a staff smarter than you. For me, that's not hard to find. And then you got to have great players, and we've been able to be able to bring in great players. And as far as my journey, God always has a better plan than we have. Let's say that if I would have not been so small when I was younger, maybe I'd have been a D2, D3 player, NAI player. Those are a lot of great players, but probably don't have a chance to learn under Thad Matta, Barry Collier, and Jay John. And because of that, I probably can't help my dad. And with my dad coaching with him all those years at Valpo, and when he went there, Digger Phelps said, "Don't go there. No coach has ever won there. You'll never win there. It's a dead end job." And that excited my dad and motivated my dad. And then taking that blueprint for how he did it to Baylor is something that is equal to success here. So I again owe him so much for all of that as well.
Well, speaking of that move to Baylor, what were you thinking?
you know those winners in Indiana, they make you think. So obviously prayed about it. I felt led to come to Baylor. I really thought that Baylor, the largest Baptist school in the nation, Valpo was the largest Lutheran school in the nation. Great academic schools, but not as much tradition and history, and a chance to go establish that. And I really loved the school's leadership's vision at the time. They were going to pour a bunch of money and really renovate the campus, but it's all about preparing champions for life. It's spiritual growth, it's character formation, it's academic success and basketball. And that's what I love about college coaching is it's not just basketball, it's all the above. So you get a chance to work with young people, and 18 to 22 years old, they're so formative as far as those years go. And what's best for me and our staff is in the summertime when those guys come back from playing pro ball and they talk to our younger guys and they ask us questions about life, family situations, whatnot. I mean, to have an opportunity to be a part of their lives is such an honor and a privilege and such a blessing. And you talk about like this year and God's timing. We were supposed to play Gonzaga December 5th. We were both in Indianapolis. And Coach Few and I mean, game gets canceled, and we both made an agreement at that point because of COVID. You know, if God chooses to play this game on April 5th, we're both good with that, you know. And Gonzaga had an unbelievable year. I love Coach Few, Hall of Fame coach, and a special accomplishment what they did that year. But you know what? If we'd have played December 5th, might not have had the viewership. Number one viewed game, about 17 million, most since 2019 NBA Game 6 finals.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
Coach, how do you promote that familial atmosphere there with your players and your staff so that they want to come back, you know, and be a part of the program once they've moved on?
Well, I think first and foremost, our staff really does a great job loving our players, and it's not about their production on the court as much as their growth as a man. And I think when we always say in coaching, they don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And I think our staff does a great job identifying people that fit our program, fit our culture, want to come in and be gym rats. A lot of them got a chip on their shoulder because they were undervalued or underappreciated as a player.
Yeah, I want to ask that. What does a recruit look like for you that you know is a Baylor kid?
Well, we'd like them to look like you did back in the day. But obviously they got to have some athletic potential and ability. But really what we really focus in on is fitting our culture. And that's someone that's going to be a great teammate and work extremely hard at getting better. And there's so many distractions in college and so many opportunities for kids, from social media to parties to whatnot, that is, if someone's in there grinding every day, they get better. And really it's about that culture of getting better, and iron sharpens iron. So for us, we call it a joy culture: Jesus, others, yourself. But you get guys that love to work, love to get better, love to compete, that like one another. You can beat a lot of teams, and we're around our guys a lot more than we used to because the NCAA rules. So because of that, it's really important we find guys that we want to be around. Because life's too short to spend time with people you don't want to be with.
Very true. Very true. When you took that job, and like Josh said, I remember like it was yesterday. There was talk that the program could get the death penalty. It was in that bad a shape. What were the fundamental values that you brought to that initial rebuild that you can look back and go, well, hey, this, because I know those days, forget the other stuff. Those days of losing basketball games, hand over fist, are hard on a coach and his family.
Yeah. When you go into games and you're 40-point dogs, you got to fight. Yeah. So the first year we had between 5 and 7 scholarship players because of academic issues, and that means we had a half a team of walk-ons. So talk about a walk-on's dream. Not only could you be on the team, you actually had a chance to play. Yeah. So, it didn't get any better than that. And then you're playing in the Big 12 and you're facing Rick Barnes at Texas, and they got 6 McDonald's All-Americans, and you're throwing a 6-foot junior walk-on ahead, played in 4 years. You feel good about your chance, And with us, it was really, though, those guys worked so hard. That first year we ended up not finishing last, and won 3 conference games. And then the next year was a struggle, as we didn't really have a chance to recruit and build, and lost some of those guys. And then it was that third year where we actually had the NCAA penalty of no non-conference. And we're the only college team to ever have that. But from your NBA experience, it'd be kind of like not playing a regular season and then all of a sudden showing up to play an NBA playoff game, and for people that don't understand that, you all drive on a freeway and cars are going 65. In Texas, we're blessed to go 75 with speed limit. So you're going 75, and people like Josh get on the ramp, they're going 20, 30, 40. It takes you a while to catch up. So we're practicing all this time, not knowing when we actually get to games how far behind we're going to be. But now you wait to January to play, then you go out and you just start getting spanked, and you're like, oh, then maybe it'd been better we just practiced all year, So anyway, if anyone's ever in that situation, we will be able to help them out, because I can tell them some things that worked, didn't work. But at the end of the year, we actually won some games, had some good momentum, and 5 years into Baylor, you're in the NCAA tournament. Now, that's an interesting one too, because Joe Lunardi, if he says you're in, right?
Right.
So he says we're in, so we invite everybody on the Farrell Center floor. It's packed. We've only gone to the NCAA tournament once since 1950, and I think that was in '88. So it'd been a minute. So everybody's there, and all of a sudden they start going through the names. And as they're going through the names, Baylor, they forgot about us, So even when you're at Valpo and you have an automatic bid, after they don't show your name for a while, you're like, wait a minute. They know we got an automatic bid, right? They know we are in, right? But so you get nervous no matter what, right? So we're sitting there, and it gets down to the last name to be called. And literally, when it gets down to the last 2 or 3, I'm thinking, what are we telling all these people? What are we telling our players? They call our name, the last name, and I'm just telling you, it was pandemonium. You would have thought we just, in Super Bowl terms, you'd have thought we won the Super Bowl. Place went ruckus, went nuts. My wife, we had my daughter there, Mackenzie. I forget how old she was. I went flying over her, hugging one of our assistants when they called our name. So we were so fired up. And then you get in, and then from there, 2012, you Elite 8, lose to Duke, who wins it all, and you're like, dang, we're close to winning it. Then you play Kentucky, and your squad, it's always got to have 18 McDonald's All-Americans and 6 pros. So We played them, and they were the better team, and they won the national championship. But I thought we were second best that year because they played Kansas in the finals. We'd actually beaten Kansas in the Big 12 tournament. So you're like really close. The next year we did win an NIT championship. And one thing is, I think there's only 10 staffs that ever won NIT championship and an NCAA championship. I think two of the coaches are from Kentucky, Joby Hall and Adolph Rupp. So at the same school. So some legends there. So it's a hard feat to do. And anyway, you take it from there. You win the championship now. And again, anytime you get tired and worn out, because you go straight from championship to parade to doing exciting things like this, and if you get tired at all, you just say, we call these championship problems, and we want to be correct with championship problems. All right,
that's right. That's so great.
Coach, if we're going to continue this interview, you've got to come out of your shell. This is tough. I want to ask
that
you,
bar high at the beginning, so I had to go.
I want to ask you about the construction of this year's team. I'm from Lexington with Rex, so grew up Kentucky fan and just a huge college basketball fan. And last year, when you all were number one, I'm in Austin now, where I'm living. When you guys were number one, I went to see you play here against Texas, and I was just like, what a bunch of grown men.
Yeah,
that I was just like, these are, especially after being a Kentucky fan and you got a bunch of 19-year-olds playing, and I'm like,
that are pretty talented.
That are real talented. It's just a different, but then I heard they're all coming back the next season. I think you lost one really good player, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be, they're going to run through this, and you did. But Maceo Teague was fourth year guy. He transferred over. He's like 22. Jared Butler was a 2-year starter for you, right?
Mark,
youngest guy that played any minutes was 20. You had the one guy. What's the big guy? 6'5". That's like 5th year guy.
Mark Vital.
Yeah. He's 24 years old. Yeah. Your team starters were older than the Chicago Bulls starting team.
Yeah, I think we're playing them next week.
Yeah, I believe it'd be a good game.
It would be a good game.
Yeah. Did you consciously do this? Was this like, look, we're going to do the antithesis of the one and done. We're going to start a bunch of grown men. Is that the way you wanted to construct the team?
Well, I think first of all, we'll always pick what's best for our culture and team. And really it could be a 19 or 20-year-old. It could be an 18-year-old. It could be a 22-year-old. Everyone that you name there are perfect examples of guys that fit our culture, that we want to be around every day, that we love as people and are great teammates. So Davion was a transfer from Auburn and didn't score much or play much as a freshman, and came in and worked really hard and got a lot better. And then obviously was talented, but he put in the work and he deserves the credit. Jared Butler started in Alabama. He came to Baylor. Again, a guy that for the first week was guarded by Davion, and he was like, I don't even know if I can dribble the ball anymore because Davion, that guy will ruin your life quick.
Yes, he will.
Made him a lot better.
Yeah, and then Maceo Teague was somebody that was at UNC Asheville. His coach moved on. And when his coach moved on, he chose to come here. And again, a guy that's just a self-made player. And what's amazing is all those guys' numbers went up each year they were here. So they got better, and our staff deserves credit because our assistant coaches are phenomenal. Our strength coach, he's been here for 14 years. He does an unbelievable job. And that's why, as Charles Barkley said, everybody knows where the weight room is at Baylor University. And then Mark Vital, he committed to us in 2013. So this is a guy that's been bleeding green and gold for 9 years. So a lot of people invested. The year before, you talked about losing Freddie Gillespie and Devontae Bandu. We had a walk-on Obim who stayed and was a GA this year. And when Obim cut down nets, he said, this is for Devontae and Freddie, who were there watching the game, by the way.
Great.
And Freddie Gillespie, who was talk about success story. So he played a total of, I think, 16 minutes his first year at Division III Carleton College. Scored, I think, a total of 4 points. Walks on at Baylor. ends up becoming all conference at Baylor. And from now, if you saw the last couple of weeks, he's signed his second 10-day with the Raptors, but I think they're 5-2 with them. He had 5 blocks the other day. But a guy that couldn't play in Division III to walking on to where he's at now. So again, I think we've been blessed with some guys that really embrace and value what we value. And it starts with hard work, and then our great people and teammates that really sacrifice. And we've had a lot of success because of that. You mentioned Texas a year ago. We had that 23-game win streak in a row. And I mean, that was the Big 12 record breaking Paul Pierce and Rafe LaFrance when they were in Kansas at 96-97. So they dealt with success and showed they could handle success. This year, when we played at Texas, is probably one of our best games. And it was right before the COVID pause, when we were paused for 3 weeks. And I tell you what, we finished that game and I was like, man, we're pretty good, because Texas was really good. Shaka did a great job with that squad. And then you go on a 3-week pause, and then you come back and you play 6 games in 14 days. And Rex, I don't know if you golf now. Josh, I don't know if you golf, but more people golf than play high-level basketball. So if you don't putt for 21 days and then you go out and try to putt, you're not a very good putter. Well, You can't not practice for 21 days, basically go out, play games, and we were just off. And credit our guys. They did a phenomenal job winning games, winning the conference championship. But it wasn't until the Big 12 tournament was over where we could actually practice, where our defense got back to where it was. And that, as you know, if you're playing half-court basketball, it's hard to win. If you can get some stops and get in transition and get some easy buckets, really opens up things. And our defense created so much of our offense.
Well, you can get Davion Mitchell. Josh, do you know Davion's nickname? Maybe the best nickname in all of basketball, all of sports ever. What is it, Coach?
Off night, because if he's guarding you, you're having an off night.
Yeah, that's great. That goes well with – that's like the glove. That's great.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, not only, in the last 15 or so years have you done what you've done there at Baylor basketball-wise, but the game of basketball itself has changed. I mean, it was a lot different 15 years ago. What are the biggest growth areas schematically that you've made since becoming a head coach to where the game is now?
Yeah, great question. So early on, we were just trying to accumulate talent. And one thing I'm sure your dad always preached to you, and my dad did with me, a good coach, it's not his system and everybody fits into that. It's what's the strength of your players, and then you develop your system to showcase their talents and abilities. And we started recruiting a lot of taller guys and longer guys, and we kind of looked like us in Syracuse. A lot of times we had a 6'11" 3-man, a 6'9" 3-man, a 6'10" 3-man. So we played that zone, and it was an aggressive kind of UNLV Tark-like amoeba zone, and that was what we did early on. And then from there, we kind of transitioned to where we played zone and man, and now we've gone smaller and a much more aggressive man-to-man. Offensively, back in the day, it was motion, and then it went to a lot of sets, and then it went to ball screen, and then it went to continuity ball screen, or just basically your false motion into a spread ball screen. So you're constantly changing, evolving. One thing we've always done is try to be on the cutting edge as far as letting players have freedom to showcase. We say at BU, we let you be you. So we had like Isaiah Austin at 7'1", he'd get rebounds and lead the break. And people would be like, man, Coach Drew's got no discipline. He's got their center bringing the ball up. Perry Jones is 6'10", 6'11", get the rebound, bring the ball up. And people are like, what is that coach doing? And then all of a sudden Golden State starts playing that way. And now we look like we knew what we were doing, and like we were just ahead of the curve. So I think every year a coach asks their players to improve. And every year a coach should improve, and our staff tries to get better. You learn a lot from the NBA. You learn a lot from other college teams, from Europe. I mean, everybody plays basketball, and what can help make your team better? You have a lot of areas and avenues to try to learn that. And then obviously you create your own stuff as well. But I know personally I'm a much better coach today than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And hopefully I'm a better coach next year and the year after than I am now.
Basketball-wise, it is amazing That's the mark of a great coach, to be able to change your style for your personnel. And you 100%, you were playing that zone with long guys, and then you got these dogs that get up in you, and you pressured and went, and it's worked out for you. But speaking of the old team, how is Isaiah Austin? Where is he?
Well, see, that's what I love about what you talked about, Rex, earlier, about how do you get the guys to come back to. And first of all, you have to have staff continuity, because players don't come back for buildings; they come back for people. And Coach Tang has been on our staff for 18 years, as long as I have. A lot of our coaches have been here for 5, 10 plus years. So we all keep in touch with our players. And with that, they come back and they give to the young guys, and they pass their wisdom and knowledge on to them. They work out with them. And that's a blessing. What we did was, with our parade, we had all the past players, and that could be David Wesley. It could be Brian Skinner, Terry Teagle, Carol Dawson, you know him in the NBA, Dennis Lindsay. All those guys came back, and they all walked with their families first in the parade. And the reason they did it is because they were the foundation, and all the hard work they put in allowed the guys on our team now to have the success they have. So we had them go first, and then our coaching staff, and then we had the players ride, because they deserve that. So anyway, and it was a great blessing to have like our families walk in the parade too. And like couldn't ask for a better turnout. It seemed like most of our players said we didn't know Waco had this many people. But we had people from Houston, Dallas, all over the state. It's only the second championship in the state, and something to be celebrated by everybody. So everybody partook and celebrated in it. And it was an awesome feeling. And coaching is very similar to parenting. People ask all the time what a coach is doing. I can tell you, if you have 3 kids, you're like, man, my life is swamped. I got 3 kids, or I got 4 kids, right? We got 13 of them. Then you have 1 or 2 walk-ons, and then you got 14 GAs and managers. We got big old family. And, you know, in big old families, you got constant celebrations, trouble, and all else in the middle. So we're constantly keeping busy with our family.
That's great.
Unbelievable. Coach, when you went from Valpo, when you left Valpo to go to Baylor, what's one basketball principle that you took from your dad and kept with you always? And what's a life principle that you've taken from your dad? Great
question. The first thing with basketball, there's so many, but if I narrowed it down, he really always did a great job making sure that everyone on the team understood good, better, best. And what I mean by that is there's a good shot, there's a better shot, there's a best shot. It's not a my turn shot, or I got to get a shot, or necessarily just a heat check shot. And I think that sharing concept is something that I've always tried to do, because shot selection is so critical. And you take bad shots, it's the first pass in a transition break the other way. So I think that the sharing part and shot selection is one thing. The life lesson I took from him is I'd get upset because as assistant coach, I'd want him calling recruits, and he'd spend more time trying to help past players get jobs after they were done playing in the working world. He's like, I'm like, can you call it? I just got 2 more references. I got a call for so-and-so. I'm like, but you know what? That's why I love him so much, is because he's all heart, and he's so positive and optimistic, but he really cares about people, and he wants to help them. And now the irony is sometimes I won't make a recruiting call. I'll make a reference call for someone else, and helping them get a job or having an opportunity to move on is so rewarding. And we've had our staff, we've been blessed to have so many GAs that are in the NBA and college, high school. We've had similar to what I did in college, manager to GA. And then we've had so many of our assistant coaches have success. Matthew Driscoll at North Texas, done a phenomenal job there. You saw Paul Mills at Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16. Grant McCaslin beat Purdue and North Texas and what they're doing. And then my brother led his 3rd team to the NCAA tournament, Valpo, Vandy, and now GCU for the first time in GCU's history. So a lot of exciting times, and on one shining moment, getting to see everybody up there. That was really cool as well.
Coach, I've never in my life, I think, ever seen anyone exude passion for something like you are right now for basketball. It just comes out of you. This is your life's work. You talked about all your responsibilities, all the kids you have, what do you do to wind down? What do you do to get away from basketball, or do you?
Yeah. So the great thing is coffee does help. All right. Espressos. I've added that into the repertoire after we took the team to Italy 2 years ago. But besides that, I tell you what I love to do is I love to, my dad, my brother, and I, some of my best childhood memories, we go fishing for 2 or 3 days, and we just talk basketball and we fish. So we've done that at Kentucky Lake. That's been one of our hot spots. We've been to French Lick.
I grew up there.
Really?
I grew up on Jonathan Creek at Kentucky Lake.
So I know Denny Crum back in the day used to catch them all the time down there too. But so we love to go fishing somewhere and just talk basketball and fish. So to me, if I can get a break and do that, there is a Wednesday night fishing tournament in Lake Waco every week from like 5:30 to 8:30. You get fishing and competition, and as a coach, I'm always going with the same guy who's a former Bass Pro fisherman. So he's putting us on fish. It was funny. We win the national championship. We get back, we do the parade, finally get a good night's sleep, go to the bass fishing tournament. We win the tournament, and the guy goes, "Man, that guy's still winning." My fishing partner said, "What are you doing tomorrow? We need to go to Vegas."
Buy a lottery ticket. Exactly. Coach, Scott, Homer, Drew, I can't thank you enough for coming and joining us. Please come back if you win it again next year, or maybe Kentucky can sneak into the title game with you next year.
Well, Coach Cal's done an unbelievable job for basketball, and it's amazing what he's done for players' rights with the NCAA, and he's offered me a lot of great advice throughout the years. So I have so much respect for him, and Kentucky fans are amazing. We played there several times, and again, I know all about the rich tradition there. So if you're just a farewell fan, Kentucky's going to have a lot of success, and if it's not next year, it's the year after. But it happens all the time. We know.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks so much. I do want to ask you, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, that I tell you what. Now I'm a movie guy.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Because me and my wife, we go on date night, and that's the only place that I put the phone down for 2 hours. Now, because of COVID, we haven't been there in a minute. But if you're going like coaching wise or like motivation wise, I think our team has watched probably Remember the Titans more than any other movie around. Nice. But if you go back in the Valpo days, it would have to be Rocky, Hoosiers, Miracle, and those back in the day.
Okay. And then if you could sit,
Josh, what do you got?
My favorite movie is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay.
Jack in his prime. Yeah. A little depressing, but I love it. What about if you could sit front row center for any performer, that dead or alive? You sit front row center and just watch the whole show. Who would that be?
Oh man, that one's hard because I haven't gone to many concerts or done much of that. Rex, who would you go with? And then I'll think of somebody.
I would go with Prince, Coach. Prince is somebody you can't go wrong on. He's done it all. He performed, he danced, could play any instrument. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Prince it is.
Just take Prince. There you go.
He sold me.
Coach, can you repeat? So much. Can you repeat?
Oh, absolutely. In college basketball, anything can happen. And I mean that in all sincerity, because it's a one game thing. The best teams don't always win. In 40 minutes, you don't know what's going to happen. And in the NBA, the best teams do, because you play 4 out of 7. So You get a lot more of a truer champion. But in college basketball, the first step is to get to the tournament, because if you get in, you see from the play-in teams, look at UCLA. I mean, if there was that much difference, teams that want to be in play-in games want to be playing in Final Fours. And I mean, that's happened a couple times. Not like it's never happened. I mean, VCU. I mean, so really you get in, anything can happen. So you got to get in. But I do like who we're returning. I do like our recruits coming in, and we do have the same coaching staff, and I trust them.
Fantastic.
Great.
Hey, Coach, I've got one more question. Any more, some of the top kids coming out of high school, they're not going to college. Some are going to the G League. Some are going to Australia, Europe to play. what do you see? How do you see this sort of playing out over the next decade with college basketball and the landscape of college basketball?
Also, let me throw in there real quickly with the transfer portal as well.
Yeah.
All that, what do you see?
Well, I can tell you coaches like to control stuff. So we'd like to know what's going to happen because then we could plan. And I can tell you that hopefully after we get some stability, what you would like to see is a player to have a chance to transfer once. But after that transfer time, if it's not this summer, like the following summer, when they transfer once, well, now they're locked in because they've been to 2 schools. And why is most guys aren't playing in the NBA. So you want to make sure they get a degree. The more schools they transfer to, the less chance that happens. The second thing is, as a coach, I know selfishly, I want to coach people 2-3 years, 4 years. Now, if someone's a one and done, that's great. They reach their goals and dreams. But again, that's the exception to the rule. All right. There's only 30 first round draft picks. So that's the exception to the rule. So we'd like to get it more where, once you have them, how long you'll have them for. And then that way you're allowed to coach them as well. And what I mean by that is, Josh, the toughest thing is if you can't get the best of someone or coach them hard enough because you're scared that they're going to leave. Well, is that really good for them? The second thing is there are 13 guys on scholarship. And last I checked, only 5 are playing. So 8 are sitting. So people got to get used to a role. And you know what? Right. Rex knows from the NBA. When these guys leave college, most of them don't start in the NBA. Most of them are in the G League or back and forth, or they're a reserve role in the NBA. So if that's the case, they got to get used to coming in off the bench at some point on somehow. But part of also the growth and maturity is that enables you to work harder and then have some empathy for people on the bench. Because most kids have never been on the bench, and as a teammate, you want to know what that feels like so you can help out your other teammates that are going through that. So, I mean, in a perfect world, again, I think you allow players an opportunity to, if they want to go straight out of high school and make money, and that's what they choose to do. I hope and pray it's the right recommendation. And what I mean by that is there's only a handful of guys that can do that. Most of them need to go to college and get an education, because if you're not going to be able to retire after playing basketball, that college degree really does matter. And it's a lot harder to go back to college when you're 35 years old and you have 3 kids and you don't have $100 million in the bank, because those people aren't going back to college. The ones that are going back to college are the ones that leave early. They don't make it. They grind away. They might make $50,000 or $100,000 after 32 years old, 33 years old. They have a family. They don't have enough saved to where they can take 2 years, 3 years to go to college. And then you feel for them. And so again, if you can leave and you can be like LeBron and guys that get guaranteed money, that's great. I mean, every coach, at least that I know, is in favor of that. What coaches aren't in favor of is guys coming out because they think they're going to get something, and then they don't get picked where they think they're going to get picked, or they don't get drafted at all. And now the school's mad because they're not back. The kid's mad because he's got nowhere to play. And then you know what? 8 years later, they're done playing. 5 years later, they're done playing. Some of them can't make it overseas, and they don't want to make $30,000 or whatever in the G League. So again, every coach does want to see their kids be successful. So that's a long answer.
It's a great answer.
There's some stuff in there too, I guess.
That's a great answer.
You got a real one coming in next year with that, I think, Kendall Brown, the forward kid coming in.
We have a really, really good recruiting class coming in. If you watch the championship game of the Geico tournament, I don't know what it was called this year, but it was Mount Verde and Sunrise, 2 unbelievable programs. And Langston Love played for Mount Verde, and they won it all. He's coming to Baylor. Kendall Brown, he's coming to Baylor from Sunrise. So I guess Langston has bragging rights.
Yeah, there you
Coach,
go.
Hey, Coach, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up since I rocked the mullet back in the day. When did you know that when did you know that Matthew Mayer could play basketball like he can and would contribute to your program?
Oh, in high school, he was really a talented player. He didn't have the mullet back then, but we saw the talent back then. And he's somebody that he can do stuff that we can't teach. God's just blessed him with that. And the things that he can't do, we can, and he's working to get better on those areas. But he's somebody that hopefully when he's done with Baylor is in a great position to make a lot of money in the NBA for a long time. So he's done a great job progressing each and every year. And we don't win the championship without him or anyone else. And again, I didn't mention the last recruit, Jeremy Sokan, because he wasn't in the championship game, but he played at Lalamere, another powerhouse team. And so you'll like our recruiting class coming in next year. And then the returning players, you all know from the championship, and hopefully they do what everyone that's come back each and every year does, and that's improve. And if they do that, then hopefully I get invited back to your show, and then we talk about back to back, and then we go to work from there. Josh, how does that sound?
That sounds, I'm ready to run through a wall for you.
Same.
Well, if Rex was a little bit younger, I'd definitely have him run through a wall for us.
I've got 2 years left. Coach, thank you so much. Come back and join us anytime. You got a standing offer to come back.
Appreciate you. And Josh, when we're down in Texas, I know hopefully we'll have fans next year. I look forward to waving to you. So, and I hope you're wearing green and gold too.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for this.
Well, Josh, what'd you think of Scott Homer Drew?
Wow, he's a little low energy. We had to, drag answers out of him.
Right, just wouldn't shut up.
Besides that, he's like a coach's coach, isn't he? He lives and breathes it. You know what I mean? You could ask him like, what kind of car do you have? A car that doesn't trap, I'll tell you that, because we need to get going up and down the court and rebound. You're like, what?
Exactly. I mean, he's such high energy, just almost too good to be true, but he's that nice. Everyone says so. And now we got to see it. I've heard
that he's just the nicest guy. And well, there you go.
He is. We're brand new fans. We were fans before, but now we're great friends of his and fans. Right?
That's right. Good friend of mine, Scott Drew.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was a good one, guys.
That was a lot of fun.
Next time, join us for the Rex Chapman Show with super sexy Josh Hopkins, powered by basketballnews.com. Please go subscribe, rate and review, and subscribe.
Subscribe if you want.
All of it. Subscribe if you want. Do all of it. Anyway,
I subscribed in college some, but I got it.
I subscribe all the time. All right, next week, come back. See us then. Subscribe, rate, and review. Later.